The cost of a Thanksgiving turkey is down this year, but so is consumer confidence. We saw a brutal reading, as a matter of fact, earlier today as we bring in Doug Flynn from Flynn Zito Capital Management here to sort it all out. I don't know what you're going to say about the turkey prices, but on the tablet I have the consumer confidence. You know, it's interesting because we've had a lot of indications like this. This was from the conference board. Not good. Reduced confidence about jobs, incomes, financial situations, and declines in current and future confidence. What would you say about kind of the state of the American consumer right now?
Yeah, the anxiousness level is rising on the ability to find another job if you don't keep or are able to keep the one that you have. And I think that's where people are getting nervous, and the consumer confidence is going down. They're looking at business conditions 6 months out, and they're thinking that it's going to be more negative than it is today. And so that makes it, weary. And we've seen that in some of the continuous jobless claims. Those numbers have been rising. So I think that fear is somewhat warranted. And that gets back to then, the whole dual mandate of the Fed. It's not just inflation, it's about jobs. And so they have a right to be a little bit more concerned than they were before.
Trump's about to pick his chairman, apparently. That's the rumor. It could be you. He's down to 5, or it could be you. I would endorse it.
I'm going to decline it.
Chairman, oh, that's right. That's how you got better things going on. Well, let's talk about prices for a moment, because, the consumer's dealing with prices that are still going up. Now, at the wholesale level, I have these. I can bring them up also from the PPI, which is what that is, wholesale inflation. It's basically, the rate there is just under 3%, similar to consumer inflation, 2.7%. I mentioned turkeys. So the average price of a 16-pound frozen bird is $21.50 this year. It's $1.34 a pound, and that's down. So that's why people are saying, all right, Thanksgiving is not as bad, because, of course, turkey's a big part of the meal. So put it all together for us. What would you say about prices in America right now?
So energy prices are up the highest 1 month amount in 2 years. They're up 3.5%. But food was only up about 1%. And so that's why the Fed pushes those to the side. They don't use food and energy in their core PPI and CPI numbers for inflation. And if you look at it, the PPI core number was only up 0.1 for the month. And so we're sitting at some of the lowest 12-month increases that we've had in a year. And if you go just the past 6 months, you're looking at services, because it's goods and services. The services inflation is only up 1.5. So overall, you're running at like a 2.3% annualized core, without food and energy, inflation rate on the producer prices. And so we're really close to the Fed's 2% target, which is why I think the market was like, hey, this is lining up to maybe we are going to get that cut in a couple of weeks. And so the market rallied today on that news.
Yes, up. What is the Dow? 690, 700 points almost to the upside right now. So that's, I guess, about 1.5%. Yeah, almost 1.5%. There's the live markets. Got a couple of minutes left in the trading session. So that's the idea right now. This is all Fed related, you're saying? So I know there's a lot of weird tech stuff, too, where people look at valuations and trying to figure out, where the pricing should be. But it's mostly Fed.
It's very volatile. Today is the Fed. Yesterday it was the valuations on AI. But we're in a highly volatile situation right now, and probably going to continue that through the next couple of weeks, it seems.
So there was an interesting story, I bring it up here, from the New York Times. I thought it was interesting anyway, because we were talking about why does Trump love Mamdani so much after that big meeting. Well, it turns out maybe he's a socialist. Look at all the companies that the government, I'm joking, by the way, the government is taking stakes in, private firms, New York Times, U.S. Steel, and on down the list. They added it up, and they said it's like $10 billion worth of stakes. Now, I don't think he's a socialist, but this is interesting, right, for a Republican president to be this active with government stakes in American companies. What do you make of this? Strategically, what it means for the economy? What would you say?
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, $9 billion of that almost is just in the Intel deal.
Intel, right?
Yeah, that's the one. But taking less than a 10% stake. The whole thing is, if you think about what a lot of this is money that's already been earmarked, the CHIPS Act and other things, and all of those were just straight up deficit increasing, allocations of money with no upside for the government. Now, so their argument is, we're going to spend this money anyway. Why not get something back for the people if it does well? And that's
a lot of economic conservatives are uncomfortable with that. They don't love it.
Very, because if the government gets involved, all of a sudden then bureaucracy increases and innovation slows down. And so the whole thing is there's a delicate balance here. They could take a stake. They got to be completely hands off, and it has to be a very small stake. I don't think that's going to disrupt all of that engine that we want. But you have to know that the opposite of this is the government just doing things like the famous Solyndra investment of $500 million that went completely bankrupt. And so this is a different take on that. And so perhaps it can work, and that's the difference here. So it's not quite socialistic if we get something out of it.
Thank you, Doug, as always. A lot to cheer about today.